All right, this is where the ambassador gets a little frightened. Oh, geez, baby!
No.
Remembered overtime.
Ambassador Bolton has a tremendous sense of humor. That's what's so great. You have this incredible brain. We may have our fundamental disagreements, but you truly are a human computer. And so people don't realize, because of all the information that you are able to access and talk about, people don't realize that underneath that powder sugar mustache is a very, very funny person.
Well, one thing I've learned on this show is you cannot be shy.
You're an ambassador.
That's true.
You're not shy. You're about going out there and, talking and whatever.
But he's saying he's got to step in sometimes. All right, so David D., we talked a lot about Donald Trump and illegal immigration, so on and so forth in the last hour. David D. on our live chat says he's building the wall. What's softening? Because people are saying, is he softening his stance, Donald Trump, on illegal immigration? He's still building the wall. He's still not going to give amnesty. What's softening? Much less turnaround? What are your thoughts?
Well, as I said earlier, I do think the wall issue for most of his supporters who come to him on immigration is the central point. Because that's what they're most concerned about. And I think they're willing to cut him slack on other issues, but that's the political gamble that he's taken. It's what Melissa said earlier. If they hold firm with him on this, it will be a brilliant political move.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the softening, so if you look specifically at what he said, and correct me if I'm, mishearing, it seems like what he's saying is he doesn't necessarily stand behind the deportation force that's going to round up everybody. However, I mean, I don't think we know the numbers. We always act like we know whether it's 10 million, 11 million, 5 million, whatever it is. We don't know because they're not here legally, but he's saying we're not going to round up every last person and send them out of the country. And then you go down that slope of only the people who are doing things that are illegal. Well, by virtue of being here, they're doing something that's illegal. But he's saying the criminals that are in custody, we should return them. The people that are here working, what do we do? I mean, that's what sunk so many other ships, right?
Well, and also it's very disingenuous to say that immigration is bad for this country. And if someone has, and I've thought this for a long time, if someone has nearly killed themselves getting into this country, if they've crossed through deserts because they're leaving somewhere so bad and they want to make a better life for themselves and their family, the chances of them working hard when they get here are pretty extraordinarily high. Well, my mom was an immigrant. I know a lot of people who are either immigrants themselves or, their parents or their second or third generation Americans. And the idea that there are bad Mexican people coming here to break laws and steal our jobs, it's so offensive, and it doesn't do anything to improve immigration in this country, and certainly not the conversation.
I think it's an economic argument, and it's the idea, are people who are showing up in this country a net positive or net negative from an economic point of view?
A net positive.
Okay, but when you look at any sort of model, it's like more people is always better. That's more production, more consumers, a bigger population is why China's economic engine is so large. The fear is that these are people that are coming over the border and are using hospitals, using public schools, using the system that we're all paying for and not paying into it. That's the question. I don't know.
And the issue
what's
is
the truth?
Who gets to decide who comes in?
Yeah.
Do they get to decide, or do we get to decide? I think there's a powerful argument for more immigration, but it goes fundamentally the question of whether you're prepared to follow our rules, beginning with how you get in there. So from a fairness point of view, the anti-immigration position has a lot of just gut appeal to Americans. That doesn't mean they want to take families who have been here for 10 years and ship them to the Rio Grande.
Or ship their parents if their kids were born here. They can't ship them away.
I don't think that's what most Americans want. And that's why Trump's saying, I hear this from people, I'm modifying my views. And by the way, there never was going to be a deportation force because you'd never get an appropriation from Congress for it.
All right. On Facebook Live, I want to bring in a couple people.
They can't deport 11 million people.
For their viewership,
the level of bureaucracy would...
Facebook Live is doing so well. Franny Francella Arfel says, John Bolton, you're great. Thanks for your input and knowledge. David Zins, best show ever. The panel is great.
Wow, I love
just
that.
a lot of people watching.
Can I build up Ambassador's ego a little more? I'm on outnumbered overtime. We have, I think this is a new record by way of numbers, which is kind of fun. Southside 60 through 631. I finally agree with Ambassador Bolton. Yay, Ambassador Bolton. And Rock Oz says Ambassador Bolton, smartest man on TV.
All right, but can I just say this to
you?
Your
Have
point?
fans all over the place.
Yes, we are the ones who get to decide, just like any other country on earth, just like Australia or Mexico or anywhere else that we might want to go and buy real estate and work. Sometimes it's very difficult. We do get to dictate the laws. The problem is the laws we have don't match, A, the people who are coming in, and B, the businesses who would love to have more of that labor force in this country. So we need to amend the laws so not only we enforce them, but people are able to follow them and not have to wait in line and go through 32 hoops in order to become.
No, I would expand legal immigration.
Yeah.
I think the legal immigration system is also fundamentally broken.
Yes.
But what people object to is not having any say on how that's going to be done. And by the way, are you aware that Mexico keeps Central Americans out of South Mexico to the extent they can?
Absolutely. They also keep Americans from buying real estate. It's very difficult
how that double standard
to go
works.
the other way.
Right.
Well, and that is the reason why 3 summers ago you had those 90,000+ children coming from Central America, because Mexico basically opened the door at the border and said, yeah, don't stay in this country, keep going north until you can get someplace that will take you.
Yeah, we'll help you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been a beneficial program for Mexico to begin with. And to your point, and this is a libertarian position, end the entitlement state. If that is an incentive for people to come here, that they're getting free health care,
here's a fair question.
And food stamps and school and everything else, end the entitlement state. I know that may sound heartless, but it certainly is much more practical. Because you cannot have the democratic system, which is open immigration and expanded entitlement.
So, okay, I'll ask the fun one first. John Bolton, next Secretary of State.
He's sure.
I'm not waiting for the phone for Hillary Clinton.
Okay. You know? All right, Ambassador Bolton, what is your assessment of extreme vetting? Asks Spikester0.
You know, I wish he hadn't used that phrase. The first thing I thought of was Mitt Romney saying, "I'm a severe conservative." I mean, it's just not the right phrase. But I do think, speaking of parts of our system that are broken, that we don't have the capacity to vet a lot of people who want to come into this country. And I'm not just talking about refugees from the Middle East. I think that we have failed for many years to consider what's coming in, and we want to bring in more people who can contribute to the society, but we're taking an awful chance in an age of terrorism.
Yeah. You've been around the world, and I'm asking this because I'm rebooting my systems here because there's so many people on the live chat and Facebook Live. You've been around the world. You've seen a lot of the suffering, and we're watching these refugees. What is the answer that you think?
You know, and I can speak as an alumnus of the U.S. Agency for International Development in the Reagan administration, the Foreign Aid Agency, and you can see incredible poverty all around the world, from Haiti and this hemisphere to Bangladesh and South Asia. The answer is better economic policies in their home countries, policies that encourage entrepreneurship, that encourage risk-taking, that don't confiscate the proceeds of the private market when it produces more wealth, that give you tenure and land and things like that. There are a whole range of issues, policies that could make a profound difference and would make people happier where they are. Governments around the world pursue policies that keep their populations in poverty. And so it's no wonder people want to leave that. That doesn't mean we have an obligation to let them in here.
All right. Is there a good reason why our partners, if for lack of a better word, don't pitch in more, like Saudi Arabia, our allies in that part of the world don't pitch in more when they've got a Hajj tent that will hold north of 1 million people?
Wow. All I can tell you is that it's a global phenomenon. When we had the issue of Vietnamese boat people, I will never forget in the first Bush administration being told by the Japanese that it'd be much better to take these Vietnamese refugees and bring them into the United States than in Japan because they would feel culturally more at home in the United States. So, you know, when you hear people say things like that, you wonder if we're the only ones that are that generous.
All right. What are you seeing on Facebook Live?
As you said, it's getting jammed up because there's so many
Ralph Gapol, I guess is how you say his name. Cubs will win the World Series this year. Go Cubbies. There are a lot of baseball fans on Facebook right now.
I'm an Orioles fan. I always have been. I'm a loyal Baltimore boy.
Oh, okay.
We can also talk about the Baltimore football team, the Baltimore Colts. You know about them?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, can I tell you a funny story? So I grew up part of the time in Indiana, and my mom's Romanian, and the end of the bread in Romanian is the Colts.
No.
And we used to fight over it as kids, and we called it the Baltimore. And so they would say it. So the end of the bread is always the Baltimore.
I still root for the Baltimore Colts.
Aw,
nice.
So glad. Okay, so we have a lot of people watching us on both, and a resounding amount of people want to talk about baseball now, so that's good.
Go Giants. Woo!
Yeah, woo. All right. Thanks for having us, everybody. Come into your computer for a few minutes. We love it. We'll see you tomorrow.